set? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Dudley Planning Board. With us this evening is member Tom Chinaki. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
And Mr. Steve Wetruba, Mr. Daniel Edmondson, who is in a in-between state, if you will, associate member presently, about to be full member, as some of the details are still pending.
Could be getting sworn in on Friday.
Thank you.
Friday morning.
That's good and welcome news. First item of business this evening is approval of the minutes of the September 13th, 2021 joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the subsequent regular meeting of the Planning Board that followed. I believe we have copies of the minutes available to us, gentlemen.
They're in tab B.
Tab B.
So I can still make motions and everything, correct, Bill?
No.
Or just discuss, right? Just discuss?
Yes.
So we really can't talk about the minutes then, can we? The only two members present that were at the meeting?
That's correct.
Yeah, I have to abstain.
Okay.
Right. So
Then perhaps we should table the agenda item regarding approval of those minutes in hopes of having a voting quorum for the next meeting.
Or if the chair comes in this
If
meeting, we
the
could.
chair should come in, we can table that for the moment at least, and perhaps
Okay.
the next meeting. Second on our agenda is any A&R plans. Indication I see on the agenda is that there are none at this point. Is that in fact the case, Bill?
Correct.
Thank you. And we get to our standard business, discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted/unaccepted subdivision streets, including, and we have the list that has remained fairly constant over the months, many months. Bill, can you update us in terms of some hopefully progress made in some of these situations?
Well, at the last meeting, we had Pierpont Estates proposed minor modification for the retaining wall. And you, rather than acting on that at the last meeting, wanted to see the change that's being requested. So I forwarded to you the letter from the engineer and the sketch that he prepared showing the modification. And I brought in this evening the plan that shows the retaining wall as it was originally designed, if you'd like to look at that to see how the wall is being revised.
Okay, that would be tab C in our
Yes.
collection here.
So the idea is to gain the necessary elevation or elevation difference between the bottom of the, what do you call it, bridge, I guess? And the grade, they're bringing the wall closer to where the water flows, right?
Yes.
And the Conservation Commission was okay in encroaching on the flow of water?
Yes, they have approved this. So I just thought it would be consistent to make sure that both boards have approved the same plan. Jeff Walsh, your consulting engineer, has reviewed this, and he was okay with it as well. So I think it's just a matter of whether you're comfortable with this, and if so, to so approve it.
Gentlemen, any further discussion, questions, comments?
So this is basically because there was an error in construction. Now they're trying to revise it by revising the plan.
Well, the way I read it,
Yeah. I'm not sure that's the case.
they go on
Wasn't
to
there?
actually list the reasoning behind it. Reduction in square footage of retaining wall required to develop the road, so that's obviously a benefit for them. Reduction in fencing and guardrail requirements for the crossing, reducing the tunnel feel of the road. So it sounds like instead of having the situation where, you know, the guardrails and the drop-off are right adjacent to the road, side of the road, that by moving that back, you would have more of a gentle slope going towards that wall, and that's how the wall ends up being shorter.
Is there gonna be a guardrail there?
That's what I was wondering, what the construction details for the original.
Because it says old proposed wall goes this way and then the new one goes the other way.
And it says reduction in fencing and guardrail requirements, but it doesn't say if they're, that mean, do they mean eliminate?
Yeah.
If I may, I would take reduction to mean something less, but no indication.
And zero
here.
is less.
Zero is definitely less to the extreme. No indication, there's nothing here to indicate what that guardrail would be, is
And
there?
they go on to say these reductions will minimize future maintenance costs by the town when the road is approved, accepted. Increased planting areas for slopes and reduction in export of fill from the site. Because they won't be digging that area out, I guess is what they're saying.
Yeah,
They're gonna
looks
leave
like
that
it.
fill in there and let it.
Yeah, are they raising that slope from the original?
These are contour lines, right?
Yeah, so they got
Numbers here?
20.
Yeah, but they're not showing where the, well, yeah, they are showing where the original are. So 610
Yeah.
is right there, and then crosses back, and then 615 where they would have gone right to the road.
Yeah,
Now they're just crossing right back to,
what's your road at 520? Or is it
620, I think.
620?
as far as their letter is concerned, I see items number 1 and 5. Reduction in square footage of retaining wall, and reduction in export of fill from the site in the developer's favor. It's got nothing to do with town. There's no benefit for the town for that. You only say only number 3 really is a benefit to the town.
Phil, do you have any further information with regards to the guardrail specifically, or?
No,
Is that
sure.
included somewhere, or we missed it?
No, this is all that I have. If you'd like a more detailed explanation, we could invite the engineer into the next meeting to present this to you before you take a vote.
Mr. Chairman, in my mind, I mean, I'm concerned about how gradual, how steep is that slope going to be when they're done? Is it still, because I mean, if it's gradual enough of a slope, then maybe the guardrails wouldn't be needed in
It's
this.
5 feet.
Because they're starting out, what,
10 feet.
610 to 620, so that's 10 feet
Yeah, 10 feet.
over, what's that distance though? What do you think each one of these lines represents?
He's got a scale down here,
Okay, yeah.
so you gotta figure half.
1 inch is 40 feet.
No, that's not right because, oh yeah, never mind. I thought it was,
Yeah.
this was half scale. This is
Yeah,
good.
so 1 inch is 40 feet, so that's about an inch.
Well, a
So
little less.
that's a 10-foot drop over 40 feet. That doesn't sound too bad. Am I,
No, you're right. I agree.
Yeah. But just how the old walls are, it looks like they blocked that drop off.
Are we of the opinion that we need some clarification on this, or further definition, or do we think we're in position to go forward with it at this point?
well, I hate to drag this out even further.
Yeah, if I may, the way I see it is if we approve it, he can continue building. If we don't, he's not gonna tear that down. He'd have to tear down that bridge and try to lift it to get that necessary elevation difference between grade of the road and the grade of the water surface or whatever that happens to be down there, the elevations.
Yeah, so this area where the wall is being moved over, again, it's 10 feet over 40 feet, that's not bad, but then what about right up here near the road where the, in other words, what's the drop off here?
Well, the top of the wall is 620, and then it's meeting that contour line at 620, so they're about the same at this point right here. The elevation's about the same, then it starts sloping down this way along the new wall.
Yeah, so if I'm reading this right, doesn't that mean that this is quite a drop right here, behind this part of the wall?
Correct.
Which
That-
is
and that
adjacent to
would
the
be
road,
down.
so we still need,
We need guardrails, yeah, because you've got a difference from top of road to the, for the lack of a better term, the
Okay.
gully of the gulch of 604.
so I think
you've
what,
got 16 feet
so I think
difference.
what he's saying by reduction of guardrail and fencing is this section right here
Correct.
would no longer be, so he's shortening the guardrail, so
Yep.
I don't think he's eliminating the guardrail, I think he's shortening it.
Shortening,
You think
okay.
that- Would you agree, Richard?
So, then we're going with the word reduction as opposed to elimination, that we're
Yeah.
redefining.
So, I'm comfortable if the board, other board members are comfortable, I'm comfortable with,
I'm not voting,
making a
so
motion.
you guys.
If the chair would entertain a motion at this point, if
Okay,
it's in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minor modification to the Pier Point subdivision regarding the Noble Street crossing with the new wall design.
I'll make a motion to second that.
All right, gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No discussion, all right, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I abstain, obviously,
Yep.
can't vote.
3 and non-voting.
Got it.
So that, I guess, constitutes a unanimous vote
Yes.
as amended. Okay, that addresses the Pier Point Estates, rather. Any further business for us in regards to Rocky Hill, Piasta Road, or Country View, any of the others?
Well, we do have Tom Levine here tonight to talk about Lyons Estates.
Okay.
Um,
Do we have any, that is item F, do we have anything for B, C, D, and E before we
No.
get to that, so we can go right
Mr.
to
Chairman,
that?
I'd like to make some comments regarding Tobin Farm Estates, but I'd be willing to take these out of order so that, since Mr. Ravain's already here.
All right, and we will do so. Mr. Ravane, are you ready to make your presentation?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, how are you?
Would you sign in, Tom?
Didn't realize your elevator was out either. I'm trying
Ah.
it was off.
We turned it off 10 minutes
Got a
ago.
lot of exercise. I was out of breath for the first 10 minutes.
Energy conservation.
Yeah, I'm
That's
like,
when
whoa.
Mr. Hornets, he's down there pressing the buttons.
Yeah, I'm going like this, like, where, yeah, they're all down, there's like 10 people down there.
Is that what it is?
I am here tonight to propose, well, actually, it's an A&R plan for one of our lots on the subdivision. We're looking to make it's just a minor modification on one of the lots at the end of the cul-de-sac, which was originally parcel A and lot 10. We made lot 10, I've got copies for everybody, I don't know if you want to see them, I made 6 copies, I'm not sure if anyone wants to see
Excuse me,
this.
Bill, do we have a tab reference here?
No, Tom didn't get me anything before the meeting, so he's presenting it to you tonight.
I brought the original plan.
Okay.
I made, yeah, I got copies for everyone.
Take, would it pass it down?
Dan, I'll just,
We got kind of a central location here if we wanted to use it rather than try to
yeah, I gotta,
struggle with this file over here.
I actually,
Bill, you want one?
I do.
All right, I'll pass one down here.
Thank you.
What we did is we took, this is the original copy of lot 10. And it's kind of like a pie-shaped type lot, so we squared the lot off. What we're trying to do is, this was considered parcel A, which is a 35-acre parcel, which actually my son owns, but he wants to build his home on parcel A out of the 35 acres. Which, going through the whole process and everything, we weren't really at the point where we were looking to try to start building, and he wants to build, and we were looking at the frontage, and for some reason, it was only 83 feet. And I know Bill presented that to me and called me and said, well, wait a minute, because we were told by David Haynes, original owner, says, no, it's 100 feet, blah, 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 we're fine. But it was only 83 feet, which I think they did that to keep the last lot or something out of, as a lot, but it's, so they considered it parcel A. But they made lot 10 120 feet of frontage. So what we're, after looking at the parcel, my son wants to start building his house. This parcel A is considered a flag lot in town. It meets all the requirements for the 50 feet requirement that they need, for frontage with the right amount of acreage and upland and all that. but he can't start building his home until this becomes a town road. So what we wanna do is we've redirected the lot line for lot 10, which you see there. We've squared the lot off a little bit more, and kinda made the lot a little bit, actually it's more functional for a buildable lot. I do have it under agreement, and we're kinda moving forward on trying to close out the lots, cause we've already closed on about 5 or 6 of the lots in there. And this is one of them that we're trying to close out, and needless to say, my son's like, he wants to start building his house, and we talked to the building inspector, talked to Bill, and I said, look, when we kinda came across this issue where I always assumed, that it was 100 feet based on what David had told me. So we I talked to the engineer, and we redesigned the lot because we do have plenty of frontage on lot 10, so we're just putting an A&R lot in front of everybody to see. We've increased the size of lot 10 a little bit better, and actually it's more functional for the house that I have under PNS now. It's more of a squared type lot. And this would become an A&R lot with at least 100 feet or 101 feet of frontage on parcel A to build this home on. And that's all we're looking at, it's an A&R proposal. I don't have the Mylar. This was kind of all, because they were closing on this lot and we realized this in the 11th hour, we were able to get this all together, and I spoke with Bill several times over the last week. Do we need, what do we need? And we decided that was probably the best to go with the A&R and just make it a lot at the end of the cul-de-sac, because we have plenty of frontage on the lots that are down there. So we kind of redirected the lot lines on lot 10, and that gives us the right amount of frontage so we can proceed with making parcel A a buildable lot. And while we're doing all the infrastructure in the subdivision, with the sewer, electric, and everything else, would rather do it all now than have to go back and try to do it at a later date. And that's pretty much where we're at.
So this change is allowed under the subdivision control law. If you have an approved subdivision, you can change the lot dimensions through an A&R process. So that's the route we thought would be the best way to go. The other option would be to make it a pork chop lot, but that requires to have 50 feet of frontage on an accepted way. And so this road will be accepted at some point, but he'd have to wait a year or two before that happens. So this way he can make the simple change to the lot line.
How do you access,
Yeah,
how are you gonna get to the house with this drainage easement here?
They've already approved the crossing and the whole thing. It's all approved through conservation. It's already built. Everything's done.
Which side is the wetland, this is all wetlands.
Yeah, I see wetland going right there.
It comes right across the stream.
Yeah.
Right there, there's a crossing. I don't have it on the plan. It's defined on this plan over here. Oh yeah, it's right here.
So the house is gonna be built
The house is
on
gonna
the
be
side of the
built.
wetlands in the back.
House is gonna be built up on this 10-acre parcel in the back. It's way, way away from the wetlands. We only have a crossing of a stream, and I can show you the crossing.
The other thing, through the chair, the other thing that I was wondering about was, where is that pond on this, in reference to what you're showing here?
The pond is, this is kind of the pond. If you look on here, so here's the end of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
This is lot right here, so this crossing is already been through.
Oh, it's way over here?
It's way over here.
Okay, so that's actually up over here.
Correct, so the pond, this easement here is where the pond is.
Okay.
This is what was built. So it's not affecting anything. It's all in his parcel of land. I think that, let me see if it's a better defined. It's on this page here.
So he's building back up here?
Yeah, he's building, let me see, I'm
There's the
upside
road-
down.
The road coming in here,
He's building up here.
up here.
Yeah, way, way up here.
Okay.
This has all been cleared. That's about a 10-acre parcel, and this road goes all the way up. He's building like a house up in there. Just a single-family house, that's all it really was meant for. As you can see, the pond is here.
Okay.
There's the crossing that was approved through conservation and everything, and this is all the way down here. So what we did is this lot line, it's kind of, he owns all of this land now. So my son owns this entire parcel all the way, and he owns all the land behind all of these lots.
Okay.
So all we did, instead of having the lot go this way,
Yeah.
as you can see, this lot kind of went like this. So what we did is we made this wider. We took some, it kind of went this way, like that, into there. So we made it wider, because they're putting a colonial on the end. So we made the lot a little bit wider to fit a nice colonial here. But this is kind of, he owns it all.
If this is all wet,
Yep,
and he's way over here,
yep.
I'm surprised you didn't increase the size of this lot.
Even more.
Well, it's a cost for the owner of the lot then, right?
Yeah, it's just, we made all the lots the same size, really, so we didn't have, all the lots are roughly the same size in the subdivision.
Okay.
And that was, we didn't actually do this. I wasn't part of the dividing of the plan. This parcel, the way this was originally, was on the original, part, there's 2 parcels of land.
Okay.
The back parcel of land was owned by, David Haynes owned both of them.
Yep.
So we had 2 deeds. So this whole back parcel was 1 deed, and the whole subdivision was another deed. So we're just changing a couple of the lot lines on some of that.
Okay, so, where's Bill?
Yes.
Bill?
So does this constitute a minor modification?
No, it's an A&R plan.
It's an
You can't change lot lines by a minor modification, you need to do an A&R.
Okay. But he's changing lot 10 in order to,
But it's still a conforming lot.
okay.
Yeah, everything's conforming. There was 120 feet. Now, once again,
So
I
the
was.
A&R will be producing 2 lots.
Changing
One
lot
is
10.
already a flag lot, but it has to be, the rules of the flag lot in the town, that it has to be a public road. You can build on that.
Yeah.
But it has to be, the town has to accept the road first. And while we're building and doing all the infrastructure, he's gonna build a house there. Does he wanna wait, till the road's done, or when we have, I'm not sure why they did that, honestly. But I wasn't part of that design, but we bought the property
Yeah.
when it was all designed.
Where is Mr. Haynes? Is he still in this?
He still owns the house at the end, but he's been traveling and he hasn't been around much. Matter of fact, I cut his lawn and I put maybe a couple hundred yards of loom on his lawn because it looked like nobody lived there, and it was actually overgrown. I said, David, so we went in and we're trying to clean up his lawn because it was kind of having a little effect. People are going, what's going on with that house at the end? To reflect our subdivision sales, so we took it upon ourselves to kind of clean his lawn up and we're gonna create it and reseed.
Absentee owner.
Yeah, his son lives there, but he travels a lot, so he's a busy guy, so. But,
So I think the point of Tom coming tonight is to present this concept to you. He'll need to come back with the formal A&R plan and the application and the fee for you to act on it as an A&R plan.
I would also like to see confirmation from conservation as to the approval of this wetlands crossing.
Yeah, it's all recorded. Everything I have is all recorded.
All right.
And then I can get that over to Bill by all
Okay.
means.
Sure.
I have it here in the town hall file.
So we don't need to vote on this tonight then, we're just basically informally giving him the blessing that this
Yeah,
will fly.
The reason why I wanted to present it tonight, I pushed Jimmy Smith, my engineer, for this to get it done, is because we have it under purchase and sale agreement. And it came in, like I called Bill and I had spoke with the building inspector, and he's like, well, we gotta make sure that it's, because we're like, we wanna get a building permit, and we're trying to stake out what to do, and he's like, wait a minute. I called Bill, and he's like, I think you only have 83 feet. And it kinda opened up the can of worms, and we're like, wait a minute, we're gonna close on lot 10, and so we got it redesigned quickly, and Jim couldn't get them. He said he almost tried to get it all done. I mean, I picked all these plans up at 5:30 tonight from his office. And I said, I gotta get this over to the board, just so you can review it, and make sure that we're on the same page. He can get the Mylar done in another day, but I know your next meeting is until
12th, I think.
October 12th. So we're looking at trying to do something, closing on this, like the first week of the month. So I wanted to present it to the board, make sure we're all on the same page, understand where we're at. And then I don't know whether we can do a signing, we can get the Mylar done to Bill at any time.
Well, gentlemen, I don't have a problem with this, so it's.
Right, you still own lot 10?
What's that?
You still own lot 10?
Yeah, we own lot 10.
All right.
But you're about
Yeah,
to sell it.
We're about
Yeah.
to sell it. If I sold it, then
Yeah.
what happens on that part?
So the
He's
question,
looking for the green light so he can close that lot 10 deal.
Right.
But I mean, we're
Doesn't
gonna
wanna
get
come back
signed.
later and find out that we're like, oh, no, you can't do
You
that.
can't do that. So I wanted to, that's why we pushed to get all these done, just to run it by the board like we always do. to
so
make sure
I don't think Tom would want to sell the lot without having this A&R plan approved with the lot change.
Right, I don't.
Because you don't know what the new buyer would think of it. So
Right. They came
since
back and
Tom
said,
has a
"Just for
closing
this."
coming up,
Even though we're making their lot bigger and more, and that's one of the reasons why we even looked at it. It made it better for them as well.
Yeah.
Because they're buying a colonial that's 72 feet long, and on that pie-shaped lot, it's tight. And some of these lots that were designed, I'm not sure the reasoning behind them, because some of them are very, very tight lots. And, looking at the lots, some only have 60 feet, some have 70 feet, and that one's like a pie-shaped lot, when there was so much land to work with. So we're just trying to and that was one of them where, and like I said, my son he's running the project up there, and he wants to obviously move to town and build his house as soon as he can.
so the next meeting is the 12th, which means Tom would have to postpone the closing until the 13th. Or if you wanted to, we could have a simple Zoom call. One item,
A simple what?
Zoom call, do Zoom, a remote meeting. So you wouldn't have to come into town hall for a 10-minute action. Or you could come in if you wanted to do a separate meeting here in the town hall, but I would think, since you've already seen this, you could, if you wanted to, just have a virtual meeting where you vote to approve this A&R plan and then authorize me to sign it.
I mean, this is the plan, it's not changing. So I mean, unless, like I brought it and presented to you guys tonight in case you saw anything, whatever, but it is an A&R plan, it meets all the requirements of everything that we need to do.
Yeah, but we can't approve it as an
You can't.
A&R plan tonight.
Correct.
No, you can't approve it tonight because you don't
And
have
I understand that. So I guess Bill was saying because of the time frame, I wanted to make sure we got it in front of you guys tonight in case, we could review it. Once I get him the Mylar in a day or two, is it possible to get this?
When's the next meeting? October what?
12th.
October 12th? There's already what, 22nd?
Yeah. But they have a closing schedule for the first week in October.
So there are
Excuse me if I
5,
may, if Bill, I'm looking at our agenda, and it looks like its next scheduled meeting is the 13th.
is the 13th, okay, sorry, I got the date wrong.
Yeah, you told me that today, the 13th, when you just said
Oh,
the
okay.
12th, I was concerned, so.
I think you should push the closing
We can't get it signed prior to that.
a couple of weeks.
It's just there's a lot of lawyers and a lot of people involved and, to move it around. And that's why I wanted to present it tonight, just to make sure that it's a simple A&R plan. There's no real changes to anything other than making a lot line and making it conform the way it is.
So your concern is if you closed and they did all the legals to show the lot lines.
He couldn't change the lot lines without the other owner.
Yeah, now the other owner has it, now they're like, oh, well, you know how much I want for that little sliver you want? So, I mean, we own both parcels now, so it's, it's a matter of, I want my son, he's anxious to build a house, he's been working up there diligently to get his house up there, and ironically, he moved back home with me, so I'm pushing it. So, I'm pushing it a little harder.
A little more motivation.
Yeah, because, and he's ready to start. I mean, he's been working there, he's anxious to move there, he loves the town, he wants to move here, and he likes, he's running the project for me. So it's really just your blessing, and if we can get this virtually signed, however, I'll bring everything down to Bill at the town, and it's just, if we can get a vote on it through a Zoom call or whatever, it's.
Well, what is the board's pleasure?
I might not be available for a Zoom call depending on where we're having it, but I can be available for a signature.
Yeah,
All that,
the Zoom call is gonna be hard.
However, I mean, that was a suggestion Bill made, but whatever, I mean, it's just a signature, we'll get it, I'll leave it at the town hall, I can bring it down to you, and.
But we need a board
The
approval
board has
before
to
I can
vote.
sign it, right,
The
so,
board has to vote for it, and it's this plan, the only thing different we don't have is the Mylar for it.
So we can't vote on it with the provisions that once we receive the Mylar, it's exactly the same as discussed right now and blah, blah, blah?
well, if you're comfortable with that, sure, give me the
I'm
authority.
not voting, I'm just.
It just is a question.
Right,
So
so,
all you're doing is changing the frontage, one lot to the other, so I
Right, if
don't
you wanna
really see a
leave it to
big
me,
deal out of that.
to make sure everything is in order, and then sign it when I'm comfortable, I'm okay with that, but I didn't know if you would be, so.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Tom, we're just changing the frontage, but
Yeah.
we are creating another buildable lot.
It is already a buildable lot, it can't be built to the road, it's a
Yeah,
flag
so-
lot, it's already.
It's not a buildable lot until the town accepts the road.
Correct,
Yeah.
but we are gonna build on it, and we are gonna make it a town road.
Right.
We're just, we don't wanna wait 3 or 4 years, or 2 years, whatever it is, you know, when we're finished. I mean, we'll probably have it sold out once we finish it out, but he wants to start construction while we have all the equipment there, while we're building. We'll just soon get the whole thing done at once.
If, Bill, we were to go with this hypothetical Zoom meeting, when would that be? And is that something that we, as a group, would be able to commit to as far as participating in that meeting?
And if
The
anything
date and the
happens,
timing,
that
obviously,
Zoom
being-
meeting can't, if one of us can't make it, and you don't have a quorum for the Zoom meeting, then he's right back to
He's
having to
stuck.
postpone his closing
Well,
anyway.
Dan would be a full member by next week.
Yeah, and he's saying that he might have a problem with
If
this.
it's on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or potentially on Friday, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And
Okay,
Monday might be a possibility, but to me, if we're gonna view a plan in a Zoom meeting, that's gonna be about that big on my screen.
I would have Tom send you,
It's
I would have Tom
identical to
send you a
this.
hard copy.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's gonna be
It's
identical.
identical
so
to this plan.
We have a quorum. To me, if we're gonna, before we sign the drawings in theory, if we can give some kind of provisional approval right now, once the Mylar is squared away, they're in the lobby downstairs, we come by, we have our rough drafts. We can satisfy our curiosities, and then if it's okay, we sign, and if someone says, no, it's not the same, we don't sign, then we have to wait till the 13th. But that would eliminate the Zoom meeting in theory, and it does appear pretty simple.
Well, it does sound like the logistics as far as the Zoom meeting are challenging at best.
How soon would you have the Mylar ready?
I can have it ready, I would've almost had it ready tonight, but we just ran out of time. So, I mean, I can have it ready within a day or two. I mean, it's a very quick thing, like we said, he was waiting, and Bill knows I've been talking to Bill all week, trying to figure out what route we're gonna take, and we came up with this as the best solution.
So Bill,
You
this has
still
nothing
have,
to do with,
Tom, you still have the wrong owner applicant here, David F. Haynes.
Oh, yeah, you know what, he'll change that on that
So,
plan.
yeah, I guess, we'd have to check to make sure there are no other
Okay.
requirements. We also need, the typical.
Because this was the signed plan.
We need sort of the disclaimer on, okay.
This was the signed plan, Bill. That's why David's name was on it when it was signed, so we brought the actual approved plan.
Oh, this was back from
Yeah.
2007.
No, this was the signed one from just recently, with all the changes on it, when the board signed it.
Well, this is now showing 100 feet of frontage.
This is the one that was just signed.
Today's date, so
Okay, I see.
That's why David's name is on it, it was all signed. Yeah, 6/24/2020, right up here.
So you need to change that.
Well, can we change it on that
January
plan?
13th, 2021.
Well, you're
so
the owner now.
that would have been
Right.
the
Whoever the
meeting
owner
prior
is.
to.
Yeah, let's-
We can change that on there.
Yep.
Okay, so Bill,
Yes.
your thought is that this is an A&R and pending Mylar and some changes perhaps that need to be made to this document, you think that in order to,
No changes.
no changes,
Oh, just
we're
the
changing
name.
the owner,
We
the
just wanna
owner,
change the name.
corrections, not changes.
corrections,
there we go.
excuse me, corrections. All right, I stand corrected. What I was going at was, you think it,
What's that?
His name's in the title block too.
okay.
Yeah, we'll change the title.
Yeah.
Any other changes that you think, Bill, I see you scrutinizing this thing.
Right.
Any other
First time-
changes that you
first
think are in
time I've
order?
seen it, so
We close the door on the changes?
That's all I can see at the moment.
All right. So in your capacity as planner, you think it appropriate or
Yes.
feasible for us to take action on
I
this?
do, yes, I do. It qualifies.
All right, let me then go back to the board. Is there anyone further questions or comments that you care to make, Mr. Wetruba or Mr. Chinaki?
So just so I'm clear on what we're doing, we're going to approve this A&R as presented conditionally pending receipt of the Mylar. And I'd like to add the confirmation from Conservation. Got it?
The Form A and the fee.
And with the corrections, as noted.
Changes. Everything is words.
And then the thought would be you would come by
I mean,
town
can
hall
I-
and sign the Milo?
Can I interject just on that motion? Like, I'm concerned, like, not concerned, but we have approval of the wetlands. But on an A&R lot, does that, if we weren't building at all and we had to go through that process anyway, it shouldn't be pending conservation approval, although it's already approved. I'm not sure what that, well,
I'm not asking for conservation's approval, I basically,
Wanna make
I'm
sure.
sorry, Mr. Ravane.
no, I'm just clarifying what,
I'm taking your word for where
Okay.
this wetlands crossing is.
Okay.
I'm basing my decision on approving this tonight
Okay.
based on that.
okay,
And I just wanna make sure that what conservation approved is the same thing.
okay, I got you.
So
Same,
you
so we're
say
not
it's-
changing the plan?
No.
Okay, I got you.
No,
No,
you're saying,
it's
you're saying it's
exactly-
recorded,
Yep.
then it should be just a matter of,
That's
I
all I
want it
said.
in
It's
front of his eyes.
Yep, no, I
I
agree.
want him to be able to come back and tell the board.
Okay, I agree, it's here, it's at the board, so, I mean, at the, in the town hall, so I'll check with Bill tomorrow, make sure they have everything done. I have the recording documents.
And further correction, there's no motion right now, no one has made a motion
No one's
at this
made a
point,
motion.
so
I
we're
was
still in
just
the
feeling
discussion
out- I was
stage.
trying to
I
get
just
the
wanted to-
wording right.
Yes.
I sense a motion.
The sense of motion. Do we second the sense of motion, or do we have to?
Pending.
Okay.
All right. So, would you like to entertain a motion? Mr.
The
Chairman?
chair would entertain, the board, whatever the board's wishes are.
Okay, I'd like to, make a motion that we approve the A and R that has been presented to us by Mr. Ravane this evening, under the conditions that the corrections be made to the plan to change the, to correct the owner's name. And also conditional on receipt of the Mylar, which will match said plan, and, evidence from conservation that the wetland crossing discussed this evening has been approved by them.
And we're accepting, not approving, correct? An A and R, do we accept an A and R, or do we approve it?
You approve it.
Oh, you approve, you would, yeah, you would do, it's an approval not required,
Right.
Well, that's-
so you
I
are,
shouldn't use the word approve.
you are endorsing, to endorse the plan.
You want me to take that motion back and?
I would keep the motion, just change the word. The motion was good and long, so.
All right, if we're in agreement then, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, and all those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
One abstain.
One abstain. Okay, we have a majority. You have a conditional approval.
Thank
What has been asked.
Thank you,
That's where we are. Thank you.
May I keep this?
Yeah, I made those with you.
Just for,
Sure. Yes.
this is nothing, this is not germane to the situation, just my curiosity. Is there any specific distance the driveway has to be away from lot 9? Or can it be right up against the border to lot 9, to the boundary to lot 9, the driveway? So the road to get back to the house?
I can look it up, Dan, not that I'm aware.
I can look it up too, I just want to, if you don't have it, I'll look it up later, I'm just curious.
I can find it quickly, I think.
Could you bear with us just a moment, please, Mr. Ray?
That's a good point. We don't usually think about setbacks when it comes to driveways. You think
Right.
about the buildings, but-
That's a building inspector's question, but I'm just curious
Yeah,
myself.
they approved, that driveway was put, the access to that back piece was approved on the original plan.
Yep.
It's on that, you can see it on the plan, it was, the crossing and everything was already designed and put in for what they wanted for the culvert and how they were supposed to build it and everything.
Okay.
That's all in the original approved plan.
You have it there, Bill?
Yes, I do. Under section 7.01, Roman numeral 4B, driveway should be located to the best advantage with regard to alignment with the way profile, site distance, conditions, and the like. Unless conditions require it, a driveway shall not be located at the extreme edge of a property and at no time less than 2 feet parallel to any property line.
We're fine with that.
So at least 2 feet from the property line.
It was just my curiosity, I mean, it's a building inspector thing, he's on top of that, I was just wondering.
We got plenty of land there, and it opens, it's wide open down.
Gentlemen, there was something, as I recall, that Mr. Horn, I believe, had raised the issue, had he not, with regards to open space?
He did.
He did. Mr. Horn, unfortunately, is not with us this evening to speak to that issue. Could you perhaps provide some background on that for us, Bill?
Well, under the town subdivision regulations, you require that a plan show open space, which is at least a minimum of 1 acre, to be set aside for a period of at least for 3 years, at which point the town has the ability to buy that parcel and to develop a park or playground on it. After the 3 years, if the town has taken no action, that condition goes away and the lot can be built upon. So when the 2007 plan was approved, I believe Lot 6 was designated as that open space piece. When we worked on this revision, 2020, there was no open space shown on the plan. And I don't recall whether we ever had a discussion about that. I don't believe we waived it, but there is no open space that meets that requirement of the subdivision control law. So you've already approved the plan. I don't know whether you can go back and sort of add a condition after the fact. Most of the lots are already sold anyway, so I think it's just something that you missed at the time.
Yes, Mr. Evans.
I don't know if we missed it, but my recollection is that it was sold to us as the exact same plan as 2007. That's how it was sold to us.
Any other thoughts?
Not by you, before your time.
Before your time. What is the situation with regards to the Lot 6? Is that sold at present time?
Yeah, Lot 6 is
Sold.
Yep.
All right. So that's obviously not open space any longer.
You're sure we didn't waive that requirement?
I don't think we
Was
did.
there a waiver?
It's not in the decision, and it would have been if it had been waived.
Well, the original plan was approved in '07,
Correct.
so there was a 3-year period. And that 3 years since then, '07, '08,
Yeah, but
'09,
The subdivision was never built, so.
right, it was never built, so I mean, it's probably an area, and it was never, I wasn't privy to part of that, any of that discussion, unfortunately, so I can't even speak on behalf of.
It actually doesn't matter in '07, because now, it's basically, it's a whole new application with a whole new process.
Yeah.
We start all over again. My recommendation, I'm just thinking out loud here, is there any reason why we can't grant a waiver for the open space requirement right now?
I guess, sure, why not?
If I may, let me ask a question. Is there an acre that's not? You've mentioned this being a very large property. Is there an acre that is available as open space? that
It'd
you
have to
can
be
designate
accessible
such?
from the road though, right?
Yeah,
that's
road
the trouble,
frontage.
It's not, because they didn't, I mean, I wasn't part of that whole approval process, so, I don't really, I mean, all the lots are all sold, and half of them on deposit now.
This is a done deal.
Yeah, it's been done and signed and off, and we bought it.
I know the waiver is.
Well,
I'm just trying to
Right.
clerically fix
Yeah.
things, if it was an oversight on our part.
So we would need at least 50 feet of continuous frontage on
I
the
mean,
street.
It might be better to have it as an agenda item, just to notify the public that that's under consideration, rather than just doing it now, in case anybody had any
Okay,
questions or concerns about
let's
it.
do that then.
I mean, shouldn't that have been done at, like, back before they approved it?
Right,
Well, when it was going through the approval process last spring, it probably should have been brought up at that point, when David would owned it, before we purchased it, so because we look at it, we're buying X amount of lots, X amount of land, developable property.
We're not saying we're taking one of your
No,
lots.
no, I'm just saying so when I'm bringing it up in a public hearing, I mean, it's.
if I may,
Not a hearing, but just.
if I may, excuse me, Mr. Evans, wait, the reason that this was even brought up was something that Mr. Horn apparently had in mind, and Mr. Horn not being here this evening to speak for himself, I don't know what his thought might be on that, but I think we've kind of jumped into his bailiwick a little bit here, and maybe we need his input, or I think we would benefit from his input.
I think I could say.
Mr. Evans?
I was thinking that if there's need for further instruction or further discussion, we could talk about it maybe at our next meeting, but I don't see and know why any action would be necessary, for the simple fact that the plan's already been approved, and if we go after the fact and give a waiver, aren't we setting some kind of a precedence? couldn't that come back to bite us in the butt at some point in time?
I think that's a good thought. That could be
And it
a
was two
precedent.
separate parcels is what was, always a little confusing for, because it was a subdivision, which was like 18 acres, and it was parcel A, and they were two completely deeded separate parcels. And I know my son owns parcel A, and we have the other one under village.
My opinion, this has nothing to do with you, but whenever
Yeah,
it was
no,
brought
no.
in originally in 2020 or whenever it
Yeah.
was sold to us as the exact same plan as 2021, the exact.
Yeah.
And it was, if I recall, it wasn't, that this discussion didn't go over 2 or 3 meetings, it was pretty much that night. We can go back and check the minutes to find out if that's true or not, but it was a quick action because it was exact,
Right.
so.
Remember we had some discussion about the waivers, and Lou had some conditions he wanted to include, so we went for a couple of hearings, I think.
Okay, but still, even if there were waivers, then there should have been the waiver on, and there wasn't, but that's nothing to do with.
Right, you didn't waive it at the
They
time.
did the sidewalk waiver.
This is
they
all
did a
coming
few
back to
others.
me now, super pave, yes.
Remember that? All that was, remember they put all that in the 11th hour, the sidewalks were half, the
Curb
super
radius.
paved.
If I may, I recall the conversation, and obviously, I think with Mr. Perrin's input, we were really into it as far as the paving is concerned. I don't recall any mention of open space at that meeting at all. I don't
don't
think it
either.
ever came up in any way, shape, or form. Oversight, perhaps, I don't know, maybe the assumption was that it had been covered at the previous consideration. But again, we may be fortunate in that Mr. Horn is with us now. We're just discussing the open space issue with regards to Mr. Ravain's project. I know you just take a breath.
So the drawing that we looked at from, was it 2007?
Excuse me, just for the public's information, our chairman, Mr. Horn, has just joined us at the meeting. so
Sorry about
we're
that.
Deferring to him.
The 2007 drawing that showed lot 6 was the open space,
Correct.
and that somehow didn't get transferred to the most recent drawing.
Correct.
And you have a total of how many lots? 14?
18.
18.
18.
And we're just adding another one tonight, which would make it 19.
And are all the other 18 lots sold?
Half of them are sold now.
So why couldn't we just take another, is lot 6 sold?
Yes.
So why couldn't we just take another lot and make that the open space?
Because that's not what the purchase that was signed as a subdivision that was approved by the town. And we bought it that had nothing to do with us, we bought it all buildable lots. I mean, all of a sudden, you can't take a lot that's a taking, from us. We got it approved that there was 18 buildable lots. There was no open space, anything that was part of it, part of the package.
But when you bought it, you bought it with the approved plan from 2007, didn't you?
No, they revised it from 2020. It was originally, and then it was revised in 2000. We bought the 2020 revised plan that went through the board. They made some changes, the super pave, the this, the that, and everything else. That's the plan we bought. It reopened up and brought it up to date. I wasn't involved in any of that, so I wasn't privy to any open space lots. I mean, we invested X amount of dollars. We've got investors, we got that, and all of a sudden you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna take a $100,000 lot out of the picture because it didn't get approved. We bought it as all buildable lots, and that's how it was when we bought it.
But if you don't have a waiver for open space, by law, you're
It
supposed to.
was never discussed on any plan, and we've sold lots, they were just gonna vote on, trying to get an open space, a waiver for open space, because it wasn't, it never was part of any agreement. It's not in the subdivision approval, it's not in anything.
I asked Bill whether or not we could vote tonight
You have to get a
to
waiver.
waive the requirement, the open space requirement, since we didn't do it previously, and since the lot 6 had already been sold, just as a clerical book, like bookkeeping type of measure. But the other board members, Dan specifically said that, well, we might be opening ourselves up to a problem down the road with future subdivisions if we set some sort of precedent where we are granting waivers after the fact, because this subdivision's already approved.
Right, I mean, it's already approved, but if he doesn't have a waiver for open space, he's still regarded to comply by it. You have to ask for the waiver, right?
In normal situations, yes. You know, unfortunately, the board has already approved this plan.
It doesn't, just because you have open space doesn't mean it's gonna be a lot that's gonna go away. It's, the open spaces, you set aside a lot one.
It wasn't stated anywhere in any of the subdivision approvals or anything. I was here only for an A&R lot on my son's lot. I'm not here to discuss open space or try to change the plan and come in and try to take a lot of loose. We've got most of our lots on deposit and ready to sell, and we've closed on several of the lots already.
Right, but the thing with open space is you set a lot aside for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, you offer it to the town. If the town doesn't accept it, it's yours.
This was approved in '07, so it was already 3 years when it was since the approval. I'm not, I mean, first of all, we own parcel A, and Galaxy Development is the, you know, they're the ones who own, the owners of that. So, you know, if all of a sudden you come in and say, we're gonna take one of your lots,
So you're not the owner of the subdivision?
no, I own parcel, we own the big parcel. I'm the developer of the subdivision. I'm building the houses.
Through the chair, if I may, Bill, would it be possible for us to get a look at what was approved in 2007? Is that existent somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay, at some point, I don't think we're gonna be
I
able
don't
to
think it's
cover this.
relevant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I don't think it's relevant because the plan was revised in 2020, nor is your argument that that the 3 years starts back in 2007.
I don't-
Because again,
that's
the
not
plan
right.
was revised
Right, it was
in
revised.
2020.
Right.
So we're still within that 3-year window. I just want to make that clear.
Right, but if the plan was revised in 2020 and nobody asked for the open space to be waived, then the open space is still in play. Because it's a requirement to build a subdivision.
So why is this all coming up now? I came in for an A&R plan, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm like, I'm not trying to open a can of worms here, but we've got a lot of money invested. We've got houses sold, we got almost offers on every property
Well-
in there. And now I come in to just move the lot line to make something work, and then all of a sudden this comes up, and I'm not sure why.
At the time, I was a new board member. So my defense would be, that was one of the first subdivisions I had any input on.
Well, my thought is that 35-acre lot at the end of the street that you just created as another buildable lot.
Oh, you just missed it. You came in a little late. We just
Right.
approved an
My-
A&R plan.
Conditionally.
My thought that A&R plan, that extra lot that you just got
There's
approved
not enough frontage on that.
was
We've got a single
was your
lot.
open space.
No, that's for my son's house to build, that's why I came in.
All right.
Build that, it's a separate parcel.
If, through the chair again, to Mr. Wetruba's point, yes, we were, all of us with the exception of one, were new to the planning board at the time at which this was presented. And I think there might be some historical value, and as someone who's dug deeply into the bowels of Tobin Farms, I think you can appreciate that, that maybe we could take a look at what it was in 2007, just to give us some sense of what that looked like, and compare that to what it is that you bought, to see how or why, where that change was made, or how that change was made, or how that change is presented, because it sounds like something may have been approved in 2007, and you bought something in 2019 or 20?
2020.
20, that may not have been what we thought to be the same, or was presented, or we felt was presented to us as being the same.
There's been never, ever a mention of open space in any meeting that I've watched on TV or watched or I've been involved in, or any of the minutes of any meeting. So all of a sudden I come in for an A&R plan, and now we're opening up a can of worms.
Again, through the chair, I don't doubt your word on that, but I wondered, did you go back to 2007?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, I did not. I said, I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to find out some of the background on this,
I
if
didn't
I
know this parcel existed in 2000.
I still don't think the 2007 plan's relevant. I think it would be no different than if he had come in and there was no plan ever for a subdivision on that
Right.
property, and he came in with what he brought in as the revised plan. If that was a brand-new plan from the start, I think that's what we have to go on.
Right, but if you brought in a brand new plan with no open space shown on the plan and asked for approval,
He should have asked for a waiver for that open space requirement.
No one asked us for open space. In the
it's
meeting.
in the
It's
rules
in
and
the
regu-
subdivision
rules and
regulations.
No, but
regulations.
But it wasn't put on the plan that you guys signed. There's no word on any of these plans that say open space anywhere. And you guys signed the plan. I mean, look, it's all buildable lots. I paid all the fees for all buildable lots. He also moved the hydrant down and made us put it in the middle of the planning board, and now all of a sudden the water department
Right,
doesn't
but
know it.
up-
We-
But
you
up
know,
until today, you had 35 acres of space at the end of the street.
that's a separate deeded parcel, wasn't even part of the approval of the subdivision. It wasn't any part of the approval of the subdivision, that 35 acres. It's a separate parcel. The subdivision consisted of all the land except for that piece. That wasn't part of the subdivision. All we're trying to do is change the lot line now to get some frontage. It's a flag lot, so we can build on that lot. Once it becomes a town road, we have the rights to build on that lot. All 35 acres, or wherever we wanna do whatever we wanna do on that, we can build a single-family home on that lot. That's part of the town rules and regulations. So.
So if
but-
we were going to proceed in this fashion, I think we would need to do a modification of the subdivision, which would require a public hearing, in order to, substantially change the plan by, taking one of the lots for open space. And the board could do it, could require open space if you wanted to modify the plan to do that.
I think we should pull out what was approved in 2020 and get a look at that.
We have a copy here if you'd like to take a look at it.
Do we have all the documents, like the covenant and everything?
Excuse me?
Do we have the covenant and everything?
I can pull it up on the screen if you want to, but it's kind of difficult to do that
Okay.
during the meeting.
I mean, the covenant was released, the bond was put in place. Right,
Right, that's true.
yeah, so the bond's in place on the full amount of lots to build on. I mean, this is a little, honest, in my opinion, a little late in the game for this. This was a year ago that this was done, and we've got roads in and people buying and we're building, and, we've done a lot of work on this property and run sewer lines and water and everything, and put wells on properties all across the board. And I came in just for a little A&R plan, and now it's turning into something that's, I'm not sure where we're going with this, or why. I mean, if it was 5 minutes before that, I would have been left and we would have an A&R plan signed this week.
Well, the waivers is listed on page 1 or page 2. There's no waiver for, or a request for open space.
So as a practical matter, you do have the ability to acquire an open space because it's in your regulations. As a practical matter, would the town be interested in acquiring a parcel in that subdivision?
I don't know. It wouldn't be up to us to acquire it. It would be up to the Board of Selectmen.
True.
So I
I
guess we
understand,
could.
I'm just throwing it out is it likely?
Has it
No.
ever happened in the history of subdivisions? Has the town ever opened up their coffers and bought a parcel in a subdivision that was set aside as open space?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So my concern is, my take on it is, there's fault on both sides here. As a developer coming in when you bought the subdivision, it would be, like Mr. Horn said, it would be partly your responsibility to understand that one of the requirements you would have had would be to request a waiver for open space, because we've seen them all the time.
Right, but we weren't part of that.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
On the other side of the coin, there's the board at the time, which included myself. It would have been prudent if one of us had brought up the fact
Right.
that there is a requirement for open space and that you're not waiving it. Which lot are you setting aside?
Right.
So at this point, I don't feel comfortable with trying to force Mr. Ravane to set aside a lot for 3 years, considering that he's got a lot of deposits already taken on these lots. Even if he found a lot for us to set aside for 3 years, my personal feeling is we're kind of asking him to do this after the fact, and the likelihood of anyone stepping forward and actually purchasing that lot to do something, I don't know. I'm just saying, that's my feeling. I think there was errors on both sides here.
The rules say that it has to be a minimum of an acre.
Yes.
Yes.
This lot that you wanna get made for your son at the end of the street, that's 35 acres.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the possibility of setting the 1 acre of that aside?
Why would my son have to give up an acre of his land for a subdivision that land is not part of the subdivision approval?
Well, I think the other problem is it doesn't have frontage.
Doesn't have the frontage, right, it doesn't have frontage.
So if he took an acre out the back there, it wouldn't have the frontage requirement.
I'm only doing it so he could build his house earlier. He's wants to build a home. His plan was to build a home. Originally, we thought there was 100 feet of frontage. You know, we were told it was 100 feet of frontage from day one. And the plans were, you know, we looked at them, we didn't even think about it until we started going for a building permit. And I talked to Bill and he said, wait a minute, I think you only have 83 feet of frontage on that. David Haynes said, I called David 3 days ago. David, do we have, he goes, did you divide it? Like, he goes, there's 100 feet there, absolutely. And I called Bill and said, no, Bill, we got 100 feet. He goes, I think it's 80, so, and it wasn't. My son just wants to build a single family home. That's what he wants to do. It's a separate parcel A. That was part of the deal when we bought it. I gave him all that property. Galaxy Development was my partner in this. They came in and they bought the approved subdivision. And this parcel A was second as 2 separate deeds. And that's how it was bought. It wasn't bought as one big 52-acre parcel. It was bought as the subdivision, and then it was parcel A that was completely deeded separately. And that's all it was. And then they just shorted it a little bit, I think, to maybe avoid some fees of 1 extra lot or something like that, because it was considered a flag lot in town. And that can be built on, as long as it's built on a accepted town road. That's the only thing that we're looking at, so I needed 12 feet or something like that to make it buildable. We're gonna build on it anyway, and my thought is, while we're there, with all the heavy equipment and all the trucks and all the stuff, he wants to build a single-family home. He loves the, you can only build 1 house up there anyway, so he just wants to build a house. We've utilized a lot of the gravel up there to kind of grade it and work and make the subdivision work, and that's all he wants to do is so he can build a home and complete the subdivision. I don't wanna sit on a lot for 3, we wanna build that out and finish it, turn it over to the town. That's what we wanna do. I don't wanna come back in 3 years, okay, now we have another house to build. You know, we wanna build it and put a taxpayer in there that's gonna pay taxes on a $500,000 home. To me, that's a benefit in these times. It's pretty good, especially where it's a great economy and things are moving. We wanna sell it and we wanna recoup our money, and, you know, I'd have to deal with the other end with Galaxy, who's done this several times in multiple properties, and, you know, I'm sure that they bought this with the impression that they have 18 lots, they came in with it, we're investing X amount of dollars, here's the return on the investment, here's what it is. I work with those guys if I have to go back and say, well, all of a sudden the board out of the blue wants us to, they picked a lot now and say we have to have open space. You know, they'd be in here on fire going, what do you mean? This was approved. It wasn't brought up through David Haynes when he was in here at all. Never. I would think, and I agree.
Excuse me, if you're talking about Mr. Haynes coming in, you mean the presentation was made back in 2007 or?
No. I'm saying recent, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't, I mean, whatever happened in 2007 was, I mean, I built back then, it was altogether a different environment. So, I mean, I just wanted to get this A&R plan looked at. I thought it'd be a simple thing to come in, present it to you guys. We're moving forward on the board.
So
I
did
mean,
it get approved?
What's that? Yes.
It's approved.
Conditional.
Okay.
I just gotta bring the Mylar in, that's all.
Through the chair, if I may, Bill, have you seen or come across in your vast experience anything similar to this situation, or are we on virgin territory here?
No, I've not seen anything like that, so, I mean, I think you have it as a regulation.
Would legal opinion be in order, do you think, or is that
Well,
something?
if you want to, but I'm just thinking that, you know, you have a regulation, and I don't think you should just ignore it. So you should either modify the plan
Right.
to include the open space or waive it. That way, you've been true to your regulations by taking action on that item.
I would agree that ignoring it is probably a more dangerous precedent than anything else that we might do this evening.
What would the board think about if we sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen asking for their input? Would they be interested in this open space in this particular subdivision? If they come back and say no, then we just grant a waiver.
I think it's already approved, so you're pretty much stealing the guy's lot.
I think they consider that a taking at this point.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure Galaxy's attorneys would find the same.
Oh, yeah.
They're, you know, and I'm surprised they didn't, if they didn't already. Like I said, I wasn't part of that.
Quite honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't catch this themselves. I mean, they are real estate developers, I mean, major real estate developers in this area.
And their
That
attorneys
they
are
did
very
not,
powerful.
that they did not trip, well, one of their, I'm sure, well-paid, well-compensated attorneys did trip over this one somewhere along the way before the purchase was made.
Right. And once again, we weren't privy to any of that information.
I understand.
And that was, we came in and said, here's an 18-lot subdivision. This is what we have. It's approved, signed by the planning board. They're all buildable lots. There you go. And that's what we're going on.
And who made that presentation to you?
Well, that was through the board. It was signed, I mean, the.
No.
plan
Who-
is signed.
I don't think that we never
Oh,
presented
no,
it to you.
David, I mean, we bought it from David Haynes, so obviously David.
So, and he presented it to you as 18 buildable lots.
18 buildable lots, and I had spoke with Bill several times, and the town, and the sewer department, and I mean, we've been in front of this board several times.
All right, if I may, I'm not, Mr. Chairman, I'm not casting any aspersions here, I don't think, but it seems that Mr. Haynes had misrepresented the size of the lot that we had discussion on this evening.
I
That
don't know.
maybe this was an oversight on his part as well. Because he did indicate to you, I believe, that this lot was 100 feet, and you find out it's in
Well,
fact
yeah,
only 83 feet,
He
so
said,
there's
"Why
a
would we do
discrepancy
that?"
there.
Right, we said, why would we do that, you know, whatever, but that, he was on a boat. I called him, he's like, I think it's 100 feet, you know, well, of course it is, but then we talked to the engineer and we found out why they did it, and they made it a parcel A, because it was a flag lot. And they kept it that way, so we didn't have to pay the extra, I guess you pay by the lots or something, or in the subdivision, so that it was a big parcel, because it was separately deeded. That's how it was originally designed, and that's all we know. We deeded that over to, at the closing, we deeded that over to my son, and that was part of the deal, that he could have a lot to build his own house on if he ran the project up there. And, you know, he's a 27-year-old kid, I'm trying to help my kid out, and I'm trying to get him so he can build a house.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to move this forward a bit, I think that the lot that you came in with the question on earlier this evening, that I think that issue has been resolved as far as it can be, or to the extent that it can be this evening. I think the other issue that we're dealing with right now is entirely separate. And at this point, I don't think that we have any consensus as I look around as to how to proceed. If I may be overstating that, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
I just think if we could send a letter to the Board of Selectmen to see if there's any interest in this, and if there is, could you just type up something quickly in an email form to send it to the Board of Selectmen? And let them know what the situation is. It was in the plan in 2007, it wasn't in the plan in 2020 that got approved. This is the situation, what would they like us to do? If there's interest in it, then we might have to get town council involved. If there's not, then we can grant it.
Mr. Chairman, are you speaking as the board or as an individual?
Do you wanna take a vote on what to do?
Well, because I'm not in support of sending a letter to the selectmen, and I'm not in support of having town council weigh in on this either. And one of the ideas I floated earlier was that we approve a waiver for the open space requirement, at which point Bill had suggested that we don't do it tonight, that we make it an agenda item. That way the public is aware, in case someone from the public actually wants to come forward and start saying that, well, we really should waive the open space requirement, which I, at this point, doubt anyone's gonna do. But then we started a discussion about whether or not that was a good idea or not, and, well, then we just continued on. But right now, we don't have any, as Mr. Clark just said, we don't have any consensus amongst us, so somebody needs to float one of the ideas, and then we should vote on it, and then whichever one of the ideas gets the most votes, I guess that's the one we go with, like it or not.
As a side note, I didn't get sworn in yet,
Yep.
so we'll do that Friday.
Mhm.
I just talked to Lori today,
Okay,
so I'm not a voting member today.
yep.
Through the chair, I am personally uncomfortable with a waiver after the fact. I'm not particularly in favor of waivers to begin with, but one after the fact sounds like we're really stretching the logic here, almost beyond belief. For clarification purposes, in order to get something on record, I would make a motion that we refer this to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration.
What happens, so we have 4 voting members here tonight, what happens in the event that there's a 2-2 tie?
Nothing.
It's a no. Not approval,
It's a
not
no.
approval.
It's a nothing. So Mr. Chairman, to move the motion, we have a motion before the board. I don't hear a second, so that motion would fail, I assume.
Well, make your motion, because,
I did.
okay.
I believe I did.
I didn't hear a second.
Do we have a second?
I can't, so.
The chairman's not supposed to make a second.
You could table this till next meeting.
I'll move it on the table.
Do we need a motion to table?
I'll second.
I
the
will make a
table.
motion that we table.
I'll
Can you
second
say
the
if we didn't
table.
get a second, then it would be a no?
Do we have a second?
No, I said if it wasn't a
No,
second.
we're
it
not
would be
taking a
no.
vote,
Oh, you're not, you
That
can't.
means the motion failed.
Okay, I got you.
the motion failed. It'd be different if somebody seconded it and then we voted on it, then we'd have a decision.
I got you. I try to follow.
And all we were talking about was sending a letter to the selectmen, we weren't talking about
Okay, I got
the
you.
big answer you're looking for.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Well, I wasn't looking for that answer
table
anyway,
this
this
next
all came
meeting.
out of the blue.
Yeah,
I came in for one other thing.
Recycle.
But it would be
some-
nice if you could walk out of here with a resolution.
I'd like to feel a little better about it, because now I've got, I've got to kind of have this on my mind, and I'm like, this is something all new, and I came in for something completely different,
Well,
and now all of a sudden.
regardless, if we have to grant you a waiver after the fact, like Mr.
Right.
Scanlon said, we're gonna have to hold a public hearing.
What if we sold all the lot, I mean, we've got offers on almost all the properties coming in, so. you
Mr.
know.
Chairman?
We're gonna figure something out.
Okay, all right, I believe you, I mean, it's just a little surprising that it turned to this.
So just a couple quick comments. First of all, you're not the property owner, right?
Right.
Right, so thank you for saying something, but I think if anything, Galaxy Development has to be involved, first of all. Second of all, I think by sending a letter to the Board of Selectmen, as you've heard, there's a lot of dissension here, we're not really sure what direction to take. Sending a letter to the Board of Selectmen, we could very easily get a no right away, and this just goes away. If they say yes, then there's gonna be a different process, but at least we would have some kind of,
I represent
indication of a direction we
Galaxy.
might
so
have to go.
just- I do represent Galaxy.
Oh, I know, but you're sitting here and we're taking up your time, and I feel kinda.
No, no, I'd like to.
There's no football game on
I'd like
tonight,
you
but
all.
still.
Bill, can I get a clarification?
Sure.
Because when I talked about the waiver, you said we should put it on as an agenda item to make the public aware. But you didn't say that we would require a public hearing. Is a public hearing required to waive that requirement?
Yes, I think it is.
Oh, okay,
Right, so I think I misspoke before. I think it would require a public hearing.
all right.
Well, it would be, you would have to figure out, it goes by, the way I understood it was it would go by if you declare this a minor or major modification. And,
Well, I mean, if you were, I don't think that's a minor modification.
Right.
In my opinion, because you're materially affecting the development.
right,
So I think it, would require a public hearing, input by the public.
I would agree.
Can Richard make his motion again?
Okay. The motion was to to bring this to the attention of the Board of Selectmen and to seek their guidance on this, I guess, at this point, or ask them perhaps if there were interest in purchasing this property or considered any interest in purchasing the property.
So we have a
Is
motion.
that vague?
Well, Bill, you're gonna frame that letter in a way so that we basically get the answer we're
Yes.
hoping for?
Right.
Okay. I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we'll send a letter, we'll see what they say.
Okay, so if they say they're not interested, then we gotta wait.
We'll get a waiver.
Does it still have to go in front of a public hearing to get the
Well-
waiver? But it's already approved by the site, okay.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen,
Good evening.
Have a good night. Is the elevator working or not gonna work?
Yeah, climb the stairs, I just climbed up here.
Stuck on number 2.
Messing around with that.
Good night.
It's kinda like Big Bang Theory. Sorry I was late, gentlemen. Where are we on the agenda? Were you running it, Mr. Clark?
Yes, we were, I don't know if we were running it, we were kind of jogging along. Mr. Nolan.
I would say crawling, but we went through Pierpont, we went through Rocky, Piasta, and Country View. There was nothing on there. We
Well,
skipped ahead
we,
to Lions Estates.
If I
and
may,
now we
Mr.
wanna back up.
Edmiston, as I recall, we opted to go directly to F, and we bypassed the others. We never really got to whether there was anything of relevance with regards to those others.
Well, we did A,
Yes.
Pierpont Estates. There was nothing for Rocky Hill and Piasta. Correct, Bill?
Correct.
I think 'cause we had come to Tobin, and that's when I said I'd like to reserve the right to come back to Tobin.
Well, through the chair, I suspect that Mr. Wetruba probably discovered, or uncovered a few more gems with regards to Tobin.
No. So, through the chair, gentlemen, I actually ran into a person who lives in Tobin Farms.
Hope that didn't hurt.
Yeah, it turns out that actually somebody was watching the meeting.
Okay, that's
And,
good. Well-informed public.
He expressed interest in the thought of having the informational meeting we talked about, inviting residents of Tobin Farms in. And what ended up happening that night was we were running up against 10 o'clock, it was getting late.
Mhm.
And I had to actually go back and watch the meeting myself to make sure I was hearing what he was telling me correctly. And sure enough, we never really made a decision on how we were gonna handle things. So I'm bringing it up again tonight because I think there may be interest from the people who live in Tobin Farms in hearing what we have to say regarding the situation there. So I, just asking the board if we could consider doing that.
Through the chair, I think, Mr. Wetruba, that is a worthy course of action. I think at some point, we have to bring the residents involved into the picture here, and if this is that point, then I suggest that we go forward with that. My feeling is that they, if anyone, need to know what's going on. They are entitled to some information, and all of our discussion obviously has been public purview, if you will, if someone wanted to dial in for this, but I think a lot of folks are probably not aware or may have some information but not a complete picture, and I think we're still struggling with that a bit ourselves.
So do we need
Wanna make a motion that we,
Make a motion, we have a public hearing, is that in order?
Would be an informational meeting, I think.
Yes, okay. I would make a motion that we hold an informational meeting, and somehow, how do we get the word out to the residents in Tobin Farms? Is that registered mail, is that?
Could we-
First class mail, I think, would be fine.
just send them all a notice?
Yes.
And that I would ask that the residents of Tobin Farm be informed of the time, location, and date of that meeting.
Let's pick a date, if that's.
Pick a date and include it in the motion?
Sure.
No, it doesn't have to be in the motion, but we could.
The motion, okay.
Then I'll just second Richard's motion that he just made, that we have the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
No, nay.
You vote nay?
Yeah, because if we do it for one, we gotta do them for all. You're gonna call every subdevelopment, every private road in town, do a meeting?
Well, this one's been, there's some that go back so far that it's not really the planning board's issue, but this is kind of the planning board's issue.
I'm still gonna vote nay.
I have to abstain.
Yep,
Okay.
gotcha.
So the motion carries 3-1.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. I forgot that. Losing the eyes.
So just in terms of dates, I think we talked about waiting till after town meeting, which would make it into November. So we have a meeting on November 10th, and one scheduled for the 24th, which is the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we
Normally you.
typically cancel that
Typically
meeting.
cancel that, and then go into December, which would be the 8th and the 22nd.
When do we put it for the 8th?
December 8th?
It gives everybody plenty of time, in case you happen to find some more archived information.
I,
You're done?
I think I'm done.
Okay.
I heard what you guys said, I understand it.
You have answers to every question, so that's what we need.
No, I remember that night we discussed it, I said, I didn't wanna have that meeting that we just approved until we had decided on what we were gonna tell people. I think we may not agree on exactly everything over there. But I
Is it-
think we,
Yeah, it's not for us to decide what to tell them, but to just tell them the truth, what happened.
Yeah, I think they just present the facts, lay it out, show them what the issues are.
yeah, because I think the important thing is that people realize what's coming.
Through the chair, I think one of the things we might want to make them aware of is that there is something called the betterment process, and that would be an option for the residents, should they care to go forward with that. Obviously, their choice, their option to do so. And quite frankly, one of the other options is to do what we've done, nothing. And it stays as is.
The situation though is that at some point in time, the developer's gonna stop plowing that subdivision and then they're gonna be stuck.
At some point, I suggest, Mr. Chairman, then the residents may have to come together and make an agreement with someone to come in there and contract with them to do the plowing.
That's small potatoes. At some point, that road is going to start to fail,
That's true.
and the town is not going to be repairing.
That's true.
And every year that goes by is a year of good road that's not accepted. It's, you know, if it falls into
It
disrepair.
becomes less and less likely that it would be in a condition that the town would accept it.
Right.
Correct.
Because that's what basically happened with Partridge Hill Road over the years. It's not accepted and now it's falling apart.
So, hopefully, that's information we can share with the residents and see what comes of that, if you will.
So, just for clarification, it was December 8th?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, did you get any response from Country View Estates?
Well, we have 2 items in tab D. Last meeting, we had postponed action on a minor modification to change the name of the development from Legacy Landing to Country Club Acres, because
No,
we didn't have a
No.
quorum. Sorry.
Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive. You were gonna get in touch with the developer or try to get in touch with the developer to see if there was any.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that suggestion, so no.
Okay,
If you want me to, I can try to get in touch with him.
okay.
You want me to try to ask Mr. Haney whether he's interested in,
Yeah, because his window of opportunity to get his subdivision accepted is you have to have paperwork in by, it's the end of January, right?
yes,
So, just may wanna let him know that,
okay.
cause I think now that the pump situation is straightened out, at the last meeting, I think we discussed that the only thing that would be required now would be to have another review of the roadway itself, and make sure that everything's still acceptable,
Right.
and
He'd have to get the as-built plans prepared, and, there's an expense.
I think he has, when I last talked to him, I think he told me that the engineering work is done, it's just not put on paper.
Okay.
So I think he could just make a phone call and get that printed, so.
Okay.
All right, so, and Legacy Landing, we're all set. Oh, no, Legacy Landing, that's not, the gentleman that just left, that was Lyons Estates. Legacy Landing is now Country Club Estates, or we haven't got that far yet?
We're at Legacy Landing?
That's number 2, inspections and associated. Okay,
So, in tab D, we postponed action on the minor modification to just change the name of the development, because we didn't have enough voting members at the last meeting.
mhm.
So, this is the same document with the meeting date changed to September 22nd. He did go to the Board of Selectmen meeting after we left last week and got approval for his street name changes.
Okay.
The only modification being that part 5, which he had proposed the number 5, his chief asked to spell it out as the word 5, so that was approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. All right, so, we have enough people tonight, even with Mr. Clark and
I will recuse myself, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Edmondson recusing themselves, yeah. So, would somebody like to make a motion on this minor modification, change of name for, Legacy Landing to Country Club Acres?
I'll make a motion to change the name from Legacy Landing to Country Club
Acres.
Acres.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3 votes, yes.
Thank you.
And then this came in today, this site visit report, well, excuse me, it's a construction completion cost estimate from Graves Engineering. I don't know whether you had a chance to look at it. I just got it this morning and I sent it out to you as soon as I saw it. So we had asked Graves Engineering to prepare a detailed estimate of the cost to complete the subdivision that would be used as the basis for financial security. So Jeff Walsh from Graves submitted this memo and provided an estimate based on, unit costs and quantities, cost per unit. And he is estimating that it would take $873,000 for the town to complete this project if the developer went belly up at the point of this
So
status.
basically, if Mr. Haynes comes in with a $873,000 security, basically bonding everything, and then he could start getting his building permits.
Yes. So he could replace, or he could put in this as a financial security so that he could then get building permits.
Okay. And this obviously went to him also?
Yes.
So I guess we're just waiting to see what he does next. But now he knows the number that he's got to work
Right,
with.
correct.
Okay, all right. Now for 2, discussion of zoning amendments and set date for public hearing, likely October 13th, 2021. These were the 3 that we discussed at the last meeting. We had the changing the TRD district or boundaries slightly
Yes.
for the solar farm, the creating the overlay district for the marijuana, and creating the overlay district for the
Self-storage.
self-storage.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the next thing would be the public hearing.
Right, so that's the next meeting, and I think that's the only meeting you have before the town meeting. So we pretty much have to go with that date or set a special meeting date to do the public hearing.
The 13th is fine with me.
So it needs to be advertised twice, so I can get the ad in this week so that it can get in 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
Okay. And next item, agenda planning, planner's plate.
Just two things, really. When we had the joint hearing with the Board of Selectmen about the Complete Streets program, we all agreed to go forward with a Mason Road project for the construction under the Complete Streets program. So Ty and Bond is actively working on that. Someone from Ty and Bond and Jeff Murray went out, did a site walk last week, sort of identified, the key features of that sidewalk plan. So Ty and Bond is working on it, and hopefully, I feel comfortable that they will come in and have the work done in order to submit the application by October 1st.
Now, because that's already an existing project that's ongoing, and it's probably a construction contractor that's doing the water and sewer lines, obviously, on Mason Road. If the if the Complete Streets funding comes through for the sidewalks, could it just be added to that project, or would we have to go out and wait for them to pave the road, finish everything up, and then go?
No, I think it could be an amendment to the contract. I
It
don't
could
see
be.
why not. Sure, it's the same, extent.
Right. So it'd just be an addendum to what they had already quoted and
Yes.
are willing to provide.
Right, I mean, they would present their cost for doing that, which would have to be approved by the town.
Mhm.
If the town wasn't happy with the price, I suppose they could go out and get another contractor to bid on it.
But it would probably be done at a later date, not at the same time.
That would take time to put together, the
Right.
detailed bid spec
But
package.
anything that would delay the repaving of that road would be really detrimental to all of us. Because
It's a mess.
yeah, it's a mess. So that's the only rumblings I've been hearing is concerns about whether or not this is going to delay repaving of the road. My position was, if it had to be pushed up by a couple of months, just think of it as that you're getting sidewalks. You'd think it would be a good trade-off. Problem is, it's all the people that use that road that could care less about whether or not that neighborhood gets sidewalks. They just want a smooth road to race down. So,
Through the chair, Mr. Wetruba is forgetting the 800-pound gorilla. We have yet to see what the winter does to that paving or the patchwork that's been put together.
oh yeah, but they weren't
It's
gonna,
be
they weren't,
interesting.
they weren't planning on repaving that until.
In March anyway.
Until, next year sometime.
So
Next year,
that's-
so.
So those who are
So
unhappy
that
with it now
gorilla's-
aren't gonna
That
get
gorilla's
it.
gonna rage no matter what.
That's
That's not our fault.
No.
Not to mention, just so in case anybody from the public is watching, because it was brought up to me, somebody mentioned to me that they thought this was a done deal. It's not a done deal. We are applying for the grant, have to get it, and we're up against all
Other-
this competition that we don't even know about.
Other towns, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
fingers crossed.
It's a solid application, so there's a good chance it will be funded. The second item is, and I'm sure you'll be happy to know that the traffic study has been submitted for the Stephensville.
Yes, I see that.
And you have, I made copies in tab E of really the narrative of the application. It's 150 pages in total, most of which is tables and charts and graphs and things of that sort. I've given you all the text, which discusses the impact of the Stevens Mill project on the local road network. You got a sort of a sense of that from the public hearing presentation a week ago. This is the actual study. It's been finalized and submitted. I will be putting, or I guess asking Michelle to put it up on the website this week so that anybody in town could look at the study and, understand what the traffic consultant is saying. So two other points. I'd like permission to go ahead and get a peer review consultant on board. So I would send the traffic study out to several traffic consultants who would review this from the town's perspective, critique the study, and be the town's representative to fight on its behalf for whatever other litigation might be required.
Is there no one at Graves Engineering that could do that?
Correct.
Okay,
They don't do traffic.
they don't do the traffic studies.
But I
Okay.
did talk to Jeff, and he gave me the name of two firms that they use.
Okay,
So I'm gonna contact those two folks.
all right, thank you.
And the other point is that because of all of the questions that have come up about the traffic impacts and the town meeting vote coming up on October 25th, the developer would like to come and make a presentation on this plan, on this traffic study, before town meeting to be able to answer questions from the public so that they're comfortable when they go to vote on the UCH TIF plan.
So
It's
would-
not really related, the traffic is not a part of the TIF study or the TIF plan, but I don't think people would be comfortable voting on something that they felt might have detrimental impacts. So the thought was, let's get this out there, have the public, comment and discuss it before the town meeting.
So would that leave us only the October 13th meeting in which to do this?
No, it would not be part of the planning board agenda. It would be a separate presentation, perhaps at a Board of Selectmen meeting or
Oh, okay,
or some other venue that would,
Okay.
maybe a townwide forum or something like that. I don't know
Okay.
exactly how
Dude.
it would be set up.
Through the chair, if I may, I just skip to the conclusion of the second paragraph, which reads, detailed analysis performed as part of the study indicates that there are certain existing deficiencies. In other words, we already, I think, subjectively knew that there were problems there. This is only confirming that. So even if the mill were not to go forward, there may be some benefit from this traffic study in terms of things that might come out as suggestions to improve on the existing deficiencies already identified. In other words, we've got a problem without the mill, with the mill, we've got a problem plus the mill. But things need to happen there regardless, mill or no mill.
Right, so the thought is, how much can you ask the developer to do on the existing
Right.
deficiencies? They proposed a number of mitigation measures, as was discussed, in terms of Art Lock and Mill Street and Village Street, whatever, that they're committing to. But fixing that intersection is really beyond the scope of their project. So the question would be, how do you do that? And there would be some information provided as to what routes the town could take to work on that intersection.
but that intersection, if I remember right, isn't that on a state highway?
No.
Yes. No, it's not actually, it's local. The state highway begins shortly west of that intersection.
Oh,
So
intersection we
The
talking about?
sign that says Anthony.
Village, Schofield, and West Main
There.
with a traffic signal by Dippin' Donuts.
okay.
So it's local roads at that point. Just as you go west past that intersection, you see a sign that says State Highway begins.
Okay,
So that's the plan, is to give the developer an opportunity to present the traffic impacts that they foresee and what they're gonna do about it.
mhm. Okay,
So the peer review consultant, I would ask for cost estimates for them to do the peer review, and then we would pick, the firm that seems to be best qualified or lowest price, whatever we decide to do.
mhm.
So I'd work with the town administrator on that to pick the consultant, so we don't have to, delay further, given the fact that we've got town meeting coming up rather quickly.
So, and this would be basically costed back to the developer.
Yes.
Do we have any funds in escrow right now for that developer?
No, they haven't even submitted their application yet, so.
Okay,
Through the chair, Bill, did we get a traffic study for the DMA project down at the Ethan Allen Mill?
We got a couple of pages.
We got a couple of pages.
Right.
It's just now, the bridge is still out. If things start happening, that section of town, that area, and the two sites are not that far apart. Could get really busy in a hurry. Again, with some limited access coming in from Webster with the bridge out, it could be interesting, shall we say.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they took the counts, but it could have inflated the traffic going through that intersection, because that's one of the ways to get into Webster without that, with that bridge closed.
Yeah. Was there anything that came up? I don't recall Mr. Murray speaking to that issue in terms of any dates with the bridge repair or reconstruction or?
Well, there's activity going on. Ty and Bond who's basically getting a lot of work from the town. We have a very capable bridge engineer, and the thought would be to put in a temporary bridge. Mass DOT has a number of bridges in storage someplace, and so they would provide one to the town, and then it would be installed. There would need to be some permitting involved because it's over a floodplain. So there would be, some design work, some construction cost of bringing the bridge down and installing it and that kind of thing. But if you can get a free bridge, that saves considerable amount of money. And that would last for a long time, maybe 20, 30 years. And that give the town enough time to go out and get a permanent bridge in place.
okay. All right. And the next one was the overview of assessors GIS data And States Oliver Mapping Program?
Yes, are you interested in seeing a presentation on these items? So my thought was that it's a way for you to do a lot of your own research, looking at existing sources of data. If you wanted to look at, zoning, floodplain, wetlands, roadways, things of that sort.
I would just be happy if we could see the tax maps from the town again on the town website.
Yeah.
They're there.
I couldn't find them anyways.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I think I could show them to you if you're interested.
I will check.
okay.
The tax maps, is it under the assessor's page?
It was, on the previous website, it was like an item that the town administrator had put in, and you could click on it, and it took you right there. And it would have the index and then all the tax maps.
Yeah.
Now that's
They're there,
gone.
but I can just double check quickly.
Okay,
Yeah,
because I tried to look at that the other day, and I couldn't find it anyways. All I could find was the zoning map.
I know that it's under the assessor's page.
Okay, so they may have
I've
moved
seen
it.
that, it's under vision, they got vision, and they've got the tax maps,
Okay.
all on their page, because
Through the chair,
they're
this
the
may
ones
be,
who write,
excuse me,
I'm sorry.
may be a display of my ignorance, but who is Oliver?
I don't know. But, so there's the links
Okay,
to
so
the
you
tax
pulled
maps.
one, and did you get them through the assessor website, or?
Go to the assessor's page,
Okay,
and so Michelle was correct, and
all
then,
right, because I did a search, at the top it says you can search it, and I put in tax maps, and nothing comes up.
there's a big block that says maps, and one of them says
Oh,
tax
it's a
maps.
work in progress, that
Okay.
website.
So they're there.
Okay, I'll find it, thank you.
So I don't know, so if you're not interested in this, we can just skip it or do it another time, but I just,
You already have the presentation ready?
it's just sort of winging it, just, going through it, so you can see what's there.
Well, what's the board's pleasure?
I may need to take another break here.
We can do it another night if that's all right.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, we'll do it another night.
Okay.
Maybe on the next meeting, Bill, look, if we have a late agenda, put it in as an agenda item and we'll do it,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
Comments from the planning board?
Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I don't think it's any secret that I've indicated a certain fondness as far as sidewalks are concerned. And one of the things that's troubled me, as we've met a number of times, is these A&R lots, which effectively we don't do anything or can't do anything with. So, and this little sidebar project, did find a part of the town bylaws for Chelsea, which I think addresses this, and I've made copies. I'm going to hand them out, if you will. I would just ask the members of the board to take a moment, maybe read this through, not necessarily this evening, but maybe some discussion going forward. It's not part of the rules and regulations with regards to subdivisions. Obviously, it is a town bylaw and something that would need a approval by the town meeting if in fact we were to go forward with that.
Okay. So basically just that when an A&R plan comes before the planning board, they would look at it and see if it would justify installation of a sidewalk and ask the developer or the property owner to do that?
Well, this would be part of the town bylaws, so I don't know where it sits in terms of the A&R. I think it's aside from the A&R, it just deals with the parcel specifically. I mean, we already have things that are required, for example, in the town bylaws with regards to streets and roads. This would, I submit, would just be an additional.
Yeah, but this says, for residential units of 4 units or more.
No, it says 2.
Number one
There's
says-
1 constructs any new residential or commercial property, or 2.
Renovates.
There's 2 conditions.
Oh, constructs any new residential. Okay. So, if somebody came before us and wanted to do an A&R of 2 lots, and it was 200 feet of frontage, what you're suggesting is we would say, you need to put sidewalk in front of your 2 lots?
I would say we probably would have to go as we've done in the past, approve or accept the A&R, and then refer them to the town bylaw.
So the A&R only looks at access, frontage and access, so you really can't condition an A&R. So I think Richard's correct, you would need to, enforce it through,
the building department,
But do you
zoning
think,
enforcement.
you think it's possible to enforce it, for a town to do that?
Well,
From what I understand,
no, I
in
think
in
the answer is
emails,
yes, I think you could.
Okay.
emails with the town planner, were Alexander Train, by name, in Chelsea, they have had no issues with this. It hasn't been in effect that long, but developers have raised the question, been made aware, and they haven't brought any legal action, or no one has contested it so far.
You know, this may be fine for Chelsea, you'd have to look at this.
It's a city.
No, it's a different environment. But again, you know, we're long past the point where cows outnumber people in Dudley.
Right, but I'm
But
just,
Chelsea's a whole different
It's
situation than
different,
Dudley.
it's different, but it's not a million miles away. We're not talking
My
about
grandmother
Laramie,
lived in
Wyoming.
Chelsea, and
but
it's a
I'm
whole
just
different
thinking about,
ballgame.
I'm just thinking about the first guy that after this, if it does become a town bylaw, after it goes in place, I'm just thinking about the first person that buys a piece of property out on Corbin Road or someplace like that, and is gonna, on a 1 or 2 acre lot, gonna build themselves a single family home with 100 or 200 feet of frontage, and then now they gotta build a sidewalk, and it
Yeah, to
basically
nowhere.
Well,
goes
that's
to
what I
nowhere.
mean, you need to tailor this to Dudley.
No, we already
How about
require
this?
that people remove snow from
How
sidewalks.
about you already own a home, but you have enough frontage that you wanna split off a lot? So then you've gotta come before us for an A and R to create two lots, one for the existing home, one for the new one.
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, and by the way, now you have to put sidewalk in front of your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are issues.
All right, I would, through the chair, I would submit, how else are you gonna get them? Are you gonna ask them voluntarily, you know, please put in a sidewalk, and we'll be really nice to you if you do? I mean, what have
Are
we
you
got?
gonna do that? Are you really gonna ask nicely?
No, I don't think I would necessarily,
Okay.
but, I mean, what leverage do we have? Otherwise, for God's sakes, gentlemen, I see people walking in the road. I see kids in the road. You know, it may not be Chelsea, but it's not Dudley of 1900 either. There are a lot more people in this town, and there are people out there in the doggone road. And we already have a problem, and a systemic problem in town in terms of speeding. We're living on, you know, it's borrowed time. I mean, we've been lucky so far that some tragic event hasn't occurred, and I'm thinking in terms of that Ramshorn Road, Oxford Road, Dudley Oxford Road situation to begin with, where you get multiples in terms of kids from the school running around that corner, coming into God knows what, because there's no sidewalk, there's nowhere for them to go if somebody's coming around there and has decided not to stop at the stop sign. And I've seen that happen.
Okay, well, I mean, it would have to go to town meeting and be voted on, so if the people voted it in, everybody's gotta abide by it. If it doesn't get voted in, then that's it, okay. I mean, we
Again,
can-
just throwing it out
We
there.
can make,
as a-
we can
as a
make the,
thought.
we can make the proposal, that's all we can do. All right, now is planning board comments, any other comments from the planning board?
Done here.
And comments from the audience, I don't think we're gonna get any. So, next meeting will be scheduled for October 13th. Any vouchers or payments that we have to approve?
Yes, tab F, we have 2 invoices from Graves Engineering. One for $1,652.80 for the item that you previously reviewed. That's the construction estimating for the now Country Club Estates, or Country Club Acres project.
I don't sign that, I assume, Bill?
Excuse me?
I would sign that one.
I've got-
Correct.
Yeah,
You would not sign that?
right. Okay,
And then
so
the-
I have signed that
I've
one.
got some copies here for them.
The 2 copies going.
I've got some signed.
I will be back in a moment.
copies here for them to sign.
I'm
I've
sorry.
got some copies for them to sign.
Oh, okay.
You do?
Michelle has copies for
Right
you.
here, I got them.
Okay,
Okay.
Get ready to pass
And
them
did
to
you sign the minutes, by the way, that you approved earlier?
say it again, Bill?
Motion?
Before you came in, the board approved the minutes.
Okay.
We had
Did
a
they- did
table,
they-
we had a table.
Oh, they were tabled,
We only
okay.
had
Yeah.
Oh, we
voting
thought
members
we'd
at that point.
take it up again at the end of the meeting
We
if Guy
can.
came in. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And the second invoice is $38.25 charged to Pierpont Estates for reviewing the retaining wall plan that you looked at earlier.
Okay. Do we normally make a motion and approve these? I think we do.
Yes, sir.
Somebody wanna make a motion for the approval of the invoices?
I don't know, people aren't
One-
too fond of us doing stuff after the fact, Mr. Chairman.
One for Graves Engineering, $1,652.80, and the other one is for, Pierpont, the other one's for Graves Engineering also, at Pierpont Estates for the total of $38.25. Do we have a motion?
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. We have sufficient copies floating around here.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve payment of 2 invoices from Graves Engineering, one for $1,652.80 and the other for $38.25.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll make a motion to second it.
Okay,
I will recuse myself.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, Steve.
I need Mr. Shanky's signature now.
No, we're thinking of going back to that though. Right, Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me?
Go back and approve those minutes we
Minutes,
skipped over.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
We have 2 copies.
Oh, I see, okay. I didn't realize it was 2 copies of the same thing. Took my glasses off, that was a mistake. Should really be going inside.
Should be 2 of each thing.
Just 2 of that one. Yep, all right. Are we good? Yeah.
Back if you don't have that. Get past those numbers.
Shanky.
Got all of that.
Okay. After the invoices are paid, we have
Sure, okay.
other town notices and other correspondence. Anything on that, Bill?
No.
Okay, so I think we're gonna go back to the first item on the agenda, the approval of minutes from September 13th, 2021. Somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, before we approve, I did think that something that was asked at the meeting, the joint meeting, that was not, I don't believe, I didn't see included in the minutes, and I would hope that it could be, is Mr. Wetruba raised a question regarding the 55 and over community in terms of some consideration that they might be given, and I believe I asked the question about existing residents, if you will, in the area getting some consideration in there as well. I'd like to see if the record couldn't reflect that somehow.
Okay.
So we'll table the vote on the meeting minutes until they
No,
can be updated, or do you,
I
would you
think
just
we
like?
could approve them pending, with the condition that the amendments be made, or corrections be made, or additions, changes.
What
We're using
would you like-
changes.
What would you like changed?
Well, as I recall, Mr. Wetruba raised the question about 55 and over, and my question was in regards to residents in the area getting some kind of, if not preferential treatment, but consideration, if you would.
I believe the way that it went was, I asked town council that was present
Yes.
whether or not we could stipulate that the 10% affordable housing be set aside for 55 and over. And her answer, I believe, was that she's not aware of any town ever doing something like that because we weren't making the stipulation that the entire development needed to be 55 and over. And then she said, however, there is a provision that would allow us to give preferential treatment to town residents, was that what it was?
Dudley residents.
Dudley residents.
Yeah.
Dudley residents would basically get first shot at any affordable housing.
Yeah, I think she called it a local preference
Yeah.
Yeah.
clause.
Yeah, so.
So I would
Okay.
ask that the minutes reflect that. And
Okay.
other than that, I don't know, can we approve them conditionally with the understanding that that'll be added?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah.
Then I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the minutes as presented and as amended per the discussion we just had. That would be for the joint meeting that was held with the Board of Selectmen on the 13th of September 2021.
Okay, so just the Board of Selectmen one, or do you wanna do the one with the other one also?
Well, it was only prepared.
Put them in as one set of minutes.
One collection. I thought they were all presented as one.
Oh,
One thing.
okay,
We could have done two separate minutes, but I figured it's the same evening,
same meeting, okay,
same board.
all right. So we have a motion, do we have a second? To accept the minutes as amended during the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
3, yes.
Tom wasn't there, so.
I wasn't there, I abstained.
Okay.
Thought on
And
something.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other business to come before the meeting, I would make a motion that we adjourn.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.